We're back in the studios of YFC and we have with us Ben today, the man behind the scenes from Air and Street Maniacs.
Thanks for having me. We're really happy to be here. I've been in Dubai about 7 years now, and I currently oversee the business at Air and Street Maniacs. Obviously, one of the biggest, kids entertainment business in the UAE. Something that we're striving to be. A UAE-born business like yourselves, which is fantastic. So
let's just jump back a bit. How did you get there? Because we've heard a few things about so we've
make
got
the
to find
podcast
out.
a bit more interesting. I think.
How is it all connected? And we've heard football, we've heard goalkeeping, we've heard.
I've got a mixed array of experience. So I started playing football back in the UK at the age of 8. I was playing for Newcastle United Academy until I was 21. So I was there, over 10 years. We're coming up through the youth system. It was a deep passion of mine to be a professional footballer. I was coming from a football family. My dad was a goalkeeper. It was ultimately always going to be a goalkeeper, with him being one. And my dad played quite successful level in non-league football and then went into the coaching side. He's actually, quite renowned for being one of the best goalkeeping coaches in the UK, worked in the Premier League for over 20 years with all the England youth setup. So it was inevitable that I was going to be dragged along with him.
Did you make him proud?
Yeah, make him proud. and
was it like you're not going to be a striker?
Yeah.
You're a goalkeeper.
Yeah. I think it was. And
you fight the strikers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think goalkeeping, we can go into it in more depth, is, it's a fantastic position. I'm a big believer in the goalkeeper, you're the last line of defence. So one mistake, it's a goal, or one save, you can be a hero. So you can be hero to zero in 1 second. And not many positions on the pitch you can be that in a lot of sport, So fantastic that I worked really, really hard to be able to develop my skills in that. And obviously my dad pushing me along the way, very supportive. Fantastic opportunity when I turned 16. I was actually one of the first people in the whole of sort of the UK and the elite football academy at the time to leave school before I took my GCSEs. So I actually have no GCSEs. I decided to go into full-time football from early on. So that was nice that Newcastle United supported me with that opportunity. I then went in as a full-time apprentice, it was back then. And then ultimately, I think I left the club when I was 21. I was 4th choice goalkeeper at Newcastle, behind Shay Given, Steve Harper, some really good goalkeepers. Training with the first team for about a year, playing in the reserves. It just sort of didn't work out really. There's loads of other goalkeepers out there. It was another goalkeeper that come in, and that's ultimately why I'm probably still not playing, is that from that, even that young at the age of 21, to sort of not be treated as a piece of meat, but it's very ruthless, and I found that out pretty quick. I'd been at the club since the age of 8. I'm a local lad. I was doing very well, and then they decided to sign a foreign player, and it's, it was tough on me, and I'll be honest, it took me a good 3 or 4 years to sort of get over that mentally. I was lucky enough to...
I mean, it's a competitive space.
Yeah, of course it is. I was lucky enough then to move on to Leeds. I played in their reserves for a year, Middlesbrough, signed for Doncaster. I was there 5 years. I played a lot of my league games at Doncaster, and I started making that journey of, down towards the lower leagues, but still at a good level in League One and the Championship.
Well, it's funny that you said the Championship, when you listen to interviews of a lot of players, they all say that the Championship is probably the most difficult league to be in because of the amount of games that you play and how competitive and closely matched these teams are.
Yeah.
Is that the case? Or?
Yep. I think even League One now, you look at some of the League One teams now, the Premier League teams, you got Wigan, you got Bolton, these sort of teams that have been at the high, in the Premier League for a lot of years, have great history, that are playing in League One. It's very competitive. And there's only 3,000 professional footballers in the UK, so to sort of get a contract every couple of years, it's tough. But the standard, back home is, I believe the Premier League is one of the best leagues in the world. How fast, when we're going to the fitness side later on how the speed of the game.
Talking about, that level of training, what's it like? Have things changed?
I think...
Where was it like back in the day, and what level of fitness, what exactly did you all do?
I remember, I used to ball boy when I was like 8 or 9 at St James's Park, even when in the Champions League the first time, so we just got in the Champions League.
I get goosebumps when I think about that, because I come from a cricketing background, and if you get the opportunity to just be on the field as part of the official team at that age, I mean, it's like you're playing. It almost feels like that. You get sucked into the atmosphere. So it's great that you had that experience, and obviously that helped build your passion.
Yeah, and I remember vividly, you know, waving the flag on the Champions League. So remember they have a big flag in the centre of the Champions League ball and the music playing. I remember vividly waving the flag and sort of seeing the players walk past. And my first memory of that was, you know, these guys are huge. They are athletes. The shoulders are bigger than I've ever seen. You know, these are, you know, athletes that are prepared to, you know, be elite sportsmen and, you know, willing to run 12 kilometers a game and put their body through it to ultimately be successful. I think that was my first real memory of men's professional football. So that was obviously really exciting. And I think now it's very similar. As you look at all the teams now, the big athletes, the tall, the physical, the agile, you know, you have to have all the qualities now to be successful or play professional football. I think gone are the days where there was a couple of players that technically were outstanding but didn't have the physical side that were able to make a living out the game. I really believe that's gone. You have to have the physical side as well as obviously having the talent and the technical side to put with that.
I think as the years have passed and the more we have learned, you see a change in the process, right? I too have played football, and I've broken everything. Left ankle, right ankle, ligaments, knees, shoulders. You know.
Maybe you should never play football.
So the whole process of rehab, the process of training, you know, all that has changed, right? And now there's technology that's come into play as well. And there are some people we've been talking to with haptic suits, you know, who now are introducing that into the game, where footballers would use haptic suits to see how their muscles react on every kick and what do they need to do to improve, you know, the efficiency of their performance. So that's going to a whole new level.
So on the training part, because that's actually quite interesting, your training regime as a goalkeeper, was that very, very similar in terms of outfield players, or was it more skills-based for goalkeepers?
Yeah, so when I look back, I think the goalkeepers would never train with the outfield team, with your fitness or your weights program or your rehab program. It was very different. Each club did vary. So, for example, pre-season, you would go in for the first 2 or 3 days. I would be running as a goalkeeper with the outfield lads to make sure that I have got a level of, you know, cardiovascular level to be able to perform. But then the transition would be, look, our goalkeepers have got to be explosive, quick reaction. You know, I'm not doing 12 kilometers. I'm expected to sort of walk around for 90 minutes, but then have to explode from that with maybe not having to do much. So it was very much focused on, you know, being explosive, being agile, being quick, being powerful over a shorter period of time, where obviously the outfield players are doing that as well, but they have to have the sort of marathon. They've got to be able to have that long-term fitness in them to be able to carry it through.
Yeah.
And I think where I look at it now and how technology has really changed that, and you know, you'll see a lot of the players now that looks like they've got a bit of a lump on the back of their shirt when they're playing, you know, so they're all GPSed up, and that data is ultimately telling the fitness coach, the manager, you know, the strategist and analyst how far the players are running, where have they run, measuring how fast they sprinted, how fast they walked over a period of time. So the data they can build to then put that into a program for that individual player is, you know, it's astonishing really now what it was like to when I first started out, that technology wasn't really there. It was sort of just getting built and coming through a little bit. The data and everything they must have now to be able to look at not just your own players, you can also look at other teams. So I'm playing Manchester United on Saturday. They'll be looking at, you know, what's the distance their players are running, what areas of the pitch are they running, how fast can he run, and it might just be 2 sets of easy data that he can run at his highest pace at this pace. Our fullback can't. So have I got a fullback that could potentially slot in and be able to run as fast as the winger, for example?
Oh, okay,
you know, they'll be looking at all these comparables to sort of give them that little edge over the game, you know, with data as well as then tactically and technically, you know.
So, but your physical nature obviously also made a massive difference. I mean, you're quite a tall boy, right?
Big guy.
I wasn't going to go there. I was going to go at height, right? But there's if you're at the back, I mean, as a goalkeeper, there's a very specific physical specimen that they're looking for, right? And the same in defenders. Although there seems to be a new trend that as a defender you need to be more gifted technically than just being tall and potentially got a little bit of pace. I mean, we've seen it now with Manchester United saying Martinez, etc. There's
a lot smaller now.
A lot of talks about him not being 6 foot whatever, right? How does that change if you're a goalkeeper? I mean, does that bother you at all? Does it play a role how tall your defenders are, or would you want them to be more technically gifted and positioning themselves better and understanding the game better?
I think, again, the game's changed. So if you look at the Premier League now, the ball is on the floor a lot more than maybe 15 years ago, where it was, you know, you had the Bolton back in the day with Sam Allardyce used to turn the play, you know, you needed someone strong in the air. That's changed. I think also because we've got these academy systems in place, children are getting taught the basics of football from the age 4, 5, 6. They're coming through a real structured sort of system where they're getting that education on the game to be able to learn to read the game better, like you say, be technically better. And I think that's obviously up the standard. So the physical side has become a little bit more less, you know, and instead of just getting a player in because he's 6'6", you know, can't kick it with his left foot, doesn't read the game well, but he's 6'6", it'll be all right. I think that mentality's changed now, where they're looking at the overall picture. If you said, you know, what would you rather have? Would you have a 6'6" centre half or a 6 foot centre half? But he's going to read the game better. His passing's way better. He's got better percentage on his long range passing, you know, than the 6'6" guy. I would ultimately take the better all round player. And these top players that are playing at Man United, you know, they've probably had to work a little bit harder to be able to get past a manager's mindset of, oh, he's only 6 foot. You know, and same with the goalkeepers back in the day, very traditional. You know, you've got to be tall, and I think that is still the same. You still have to have the attributes, but if you're outstanding at, you know, your distribution or your shot stopping, and you're outstanding at many things, then, you know, you're going to get a little bit more leeway that you're not 6'4", 6'5". You know, so, you know, there's been some very good goalkeepers that are, you know, Shea Given, for example, 6'2", not the tallest compared to, you know, the average, but an outstanding goalkeeper.
To me, that's still pretty tall. Everybody to me is tall.
So yeah, I think it varies, but, you know, goalkeeping's changed so much from when I played, you know, especially when I started out. Now the goalkeepers have to be as good with the feet as with the hands, and I think, you know, even as a fan, you see that now watching, you know, Liverpool's goalkeeper, Man City's goalkeeper. They can put the ball wherever they want. Back in my day, you know, I wasn't as far back where you could pick it up on a back pass, but it was more, you know, you wouldn't be having to ping it over the striker into the full back, or, you know, it was a bit more safer, you know, just get it up there. But when now they're really trying to pick people out and start the game off well and start the phase of play off in the right manner, you know.
But hasn't the technology of the ball also played a role? I mean, the balls used to be a lot heavier. I remember when I played a little bit as well, not in any of your leagues, right? But the ball used to like gather the water and it would become really heavy. You would never be able to pump it across the field.
I'm not that old.
I'm not saying that. Neither am I. But I'm just saying. I mean, if you're looking at, I think the ball started changing probably about 92, 93, 94, where it became lighter and it started moving in the air a lot more. How's that changed the game in general, where the ball takes a lot? And how does your training get affected by now having to adjust to this new ball that just goes wherever it was?
We used to do testing with Nike a lot as a young goalkeeper back in the day. You know, Nike would bring 3 or 4 different models of ball. This might be the Premier League ball in 4 years' time or 3 years' time.
That far ahead?
That far ahead, because to go back to, so Nike's head office for football used to actually be in Sunderland or in the northeast. So they would come in, all the academy lads, we would train with that ball, give our, you know, feedback, what we thought, it moves too much. Because obviously, ultimately, it's got to be a fair line where, you know, we're playing with a round ball. It does have to fly straight. Yeah, you can make it move with a certain technique, but we can't have a ball with a ball inside. You know, them ones that, you know, that isn't football, is it? You know, so obviously when the players are passing it, it needs to go where the, you know, flow straight. So we used to do that a lot, and obviously the ball did change. And I remember a couple of years where the ball was moving a lot more than it did the year before.
Yeah.
So again, that's just repetition, practicing. you know, using your technique and maybe having to adapt your technique. You know, for example, you might have to drop a bit deeper when the harder shot's coming at you and give yourself a little bit more time. Because what happened was the ball started moving quicker, a lot quicker, you know. So again, that goes back to the agility side, the fitness side, how quick you are. Can you adapt physically as well with the ball and keep up with the pace? And from what I've noticed now when I go and watch games is the pace of the game is so quick. And it's sometimes quite hard to see on TV, the pace of the game. But when you're at a game, you can be looking down one end and then literally 3-4 seconds later, 2 or 3 passes, they're broke and they're down the other end. It's really so quick now. It's pretty impressive. And I really like what they did in the World Cup with adding the time on, because the ball is out of play a lot, so they are resting a lot.
Yeah.
But you know, you see when the ball is in play, they're working extremely hard to get in the shape and also, you know, counteract that and get, you know, being in the best position. And you know, all the best teams, they work hard, so hard. And normally the best team, for example, Man City, who just won the Premier League, are working harder. They'll outwork a team, and they'll outwork an Arsenal or a Man United. So it's only by a very small percentage, 0.3%, but they might run that little bit more, or they've got the better game understanding, so they don't have to run as much because the game understanding's better, but they're still working hard at the right times.
I was reading about the ball used for FIFA this time by Adidas.
Yeah.
And that's a major advancement in the gyrometer and the tracking that was embedded into the ball.
100%. I remember there was a lot of controversy when the World Cup was in South Africa with what they called the Jabulani ball,
Right.
because of the amount of movement that it had in the air. And how difficult it was for goalkeepers to adjust and in such a small direction, because
Small
nobody
time,
saw the ball prior to that. You know, it was like kept a secret.
Yeah,
It'd
yeah,
be this
yeah.
the special ball, and then
Yeah.
it was a special ball.
You've got 2 weeks with that ball, maybe 1 week to be able to adjust. And I think it's like when you play in the Premier League, or you're playing in, so for example, you're playing in League One, okay, and then you go on a Saturday, you're playing with a mitre ball. You go and play in the FA Cup on a Tuesday night, you're playing with an Umbro ball. You've had 1 day training with that ball, and you've got to adjust, you know, so you're training all week with one ball. You would always train with the balls that you're playing with the next game, but then that would change to a different makeup ball. The ball's completely different. It might be a lot lighter. You might have to kick it a bit different. There's a lot of variables as well that you've got to think about. So you're playing the Champions League with an Adidas ball, then on the Saturday you're back with the Nike, the Premier League ball, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, there's a little bit of adjustment there.
Did you have a preference?
No, I probably should have. That's where I went wrong.
As long as it doesn't go in the net.
I'm very old school, you know, keep the ball at the back of the net.
Yeah.
So I was actually really technically very good. My games play could have probably been a little bit better. I didn't play as many games as I wanted to, you know, especially at a young age. So, you know, anyone that I give advice to now as a young goalkeeper, they say, oh, what can I do? How do I make it? I say, just go and play as many games as you can to make as many decisions as you can, and put yourself in them situations where you're going to make decisions, because goalkeeping is about making a decision. Do I come for the cross? Do I stay in? Do I come out and come for a 1v1, or do I stay in my goal? It's all about decision making. So the more decisions you make, like in life really, the more you make, the more mistakes you make, then you're gonna learn quickly. So go and play as many games as you can, and then, you know, you'll learn pretty quick on your games play. And then obviously you've got to have the technical ability as well.
So talking about decisions, what made you take that decision to move here?
So I actually was playing for a team called Shrewsbury Town in League One, and as I was still playing, I was always entrepreneurial, always wanted to have my own businesses, really interested in that, coming from non-league, not knowing every 2 years what part of the country I'm going to be in. So I sort of made the decision, look, I want to invest some of my own money that I've worked hard for and set up my own businesses. So I did that in Shrewsbury. I built in an old chapel in an old church. I put a big boutique hotel in it, a bar, restaurant, a Moroccan spa. Was really, you know,
You put a bar in an old church.
Yeah, I know. So it was a derelict church that had been decommissioned.
Okay.
And I'll show you the photos after. And it was beautiful. Obviously, in the arches, had all the back bar, and so I did that while I was still playing. So you can imagine, I'm playing for the town, you know, Shrewsbury Town on the Saturday. Then I'm in my restaurant on the night time, you know, helping the staff out if they need it, or pouring a pint, you know. And obviously I use that a little bit to obviously help the business and my profile in the area to sort of get the business going. So I did that for 4 years. I ended up buying another place and really enjoyed it. You know, I learned a lot of operations and how business works and customer service. It was a bit of a point in my life where I was like, do I carry on playing football? I've got these businesses. Or the business started to get busy, it grew. You know, look, I'm going to have to retire here. This is ultimately going to be my future.
Yeah.
You know, football, every year I'm moving around, the money's getting less and less, you know, a bit of a struggle at times. And then I was like, look, I'm going to focus on this full time. So I took the, you know, huge decision really, so passionate about football. I worked so hard to sort of come away from it and go into to the business, and ended up, you know, really lucky to be able to sell the business after about 5 years. And then it was the first time in my life where I was like, look, what do I do now? Or, you know, do I go back to football? Do I go into coaching? Do I get fit and go back into football and play? You know, or do I look for more businesses? You know, do something else? And decided to come out. I came here on holiday a couple of times. So why not go to Dubai?
Yeah.
And so came here coaching. Went back to my roots.
Okay.
Just got here. Literally got myself a coaching job, obviously straight away with my experience. So I was coaching out here, helping run a big football academy for about 3 years. And then started implementing my skills in business with multi-sport camps, getting into schools, growing the business, doing events. And then COVID hit. So that was a shame. I'd worked really hard for the company. We built it up. Great reputation, really good bunch of coaches that we got in that had the right, you know, qualifications and experience. And, you know, we really believed in doing things properly. And COVID hit, and I had a nice 6 months off from basically not working, which was really nice, time to focus. I had, you know, I've been so busy from a young age.
Yeah, you get forced to focus.
Yeah. And so, you know, sat in the apartment and around the pool for 6 months, and then really passionate to try and find a role where I could be, you know, day-to-day operations, and also an opportunity to find a business that was, you know, had the ability to grow and be successful. And I was lucky enough to meet the owners at Air and Street Maniacs, who give me the opportunity to say, look, here's what we've got. This is where we want to go. You know, let's see what you can do. So basically took them out of COVID, really hard time for any business coming out of COVID, especially working with children, families. Everyone's wearing a mask. You're not allowed to have birthday parties.
Yeah.
You've got kids in the trampoline with masks on, they can't breathe. You know, there's a lot of you know, working out how we can make it sort of successful coming out of COVID. Luckily we did. And, you know, we're in a process now of building the brand, and, you know, a lot of families hopefully know Airmaniax, you know, biggest.
How long has it been?
2019, they opened the first Airmaniacs in Al Quoz 1, and then from there went to Abu Dhabi, put one in Marina Mall there on the Corniche, then decided to open another brand, Street Maniacs, for the older children, a parkour/trampoline park, which is obviously another brand separate to Airmaniacs, and then Yas Mall Airmaniacs we opened in April last year. We're growing. We've got another park coming in Arabian Centre in Al Khalij in October. That's all getting built at the minute, and then hopefully we're going to go to Sharjah and maybe Al Ain and some other places in the UAE. So it's been really nice to be a big part of a company that is born in the UAE, but also links the fact of, you know, working with children, which I really enjoy. Looking back at my football time when I was coaching young kids, trying to develop them, trying to pass my on advice, but then also having the responsibility on my shoulders to operate quite a big business with a big workforce and what that brings with it. Yeah.
I've taken David there, and David played around and he loved it so much that we then ended up having his birthday party there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. and they absolutely loved it. I mean, it was the talk of the school for a week, you know, the party that he had at Air Maniacs. So, if our listeners have kids, I encourage you to go there. But the one thing that struck me when I was there was the size of the operation, right? I mean, when you're there, you think it's bouncing castles and things like that. Yeah. But it's actually a massive operation, right? Because you have to make sure it's clean. It gets obviously deflated. Safe. It has to be inflated again. Yeah. All the cameras that I saw, the checks on the zip line that's inside. I mean, it's actually a massive operation.
Yeah. I mean, Airmaniax is an amazing concept. You know, it's a very simple concept, though. It's a simple concept in the fact that it's a bouncy castle in a warehouse. Yeah. But it's so much more than that. What I was excited about when I work on a project is you've got to believe in the product. Yeah. And like you, I was, you know, looking at Airmaniax when I first went, and this is a great product. I love vibe. I love the graffiti on the wall. I love the fact that kids can come here and let off their steam, let off their energy, get fit, be healthy without sitting at home on the PlayStation. Yeah. With Airmaniacs, you know, it's a big operation. We have, you know, potentially 40, 50 birthdays over a weekend, 7 at once. You know, there's a lot of staff. There's a lot of.
It's never quiet.
Yeah.
Like while we were there, it's constant. It doesn't stop. It's constant.
Especially on the weekend.
Every room. I mean, you've got how many? You've got 1, 2, 3.
7. Yeah,
three upstairs and 4 downstairs.
Yeah. And then we have, you know, four time slots throughout the day. So yeah, it's a big operation, but I think, you know, we've got a really good team. You know, we're very focused on, especially safety is massively important for us. I look at it that if your child's going to come in our park, you know, it's my own child. We make sure that they're protected. We've done everything possible to make sure that they're safe. We're lucky in a way that the inflatable bouncy castle is safe. It's, you know, it's a safe product, which is great. So that obviously helps. You just have to be organised and make sure that you tick all the boxes and everyone knows what they're doing. And one of our big emphases that I've really pushed since I started at the company was, you know, making sure that every child or every parent comes in our park has a great time. And I think that's, you know, it's really important because we've got so much competition out there with these monster billion-dollar theme parks, biggest roller coaster, fastest roller coaster, you know, all this glitz and glamour here in the UAE. And, you know, I'm really proud that we can sort of compete with them guys, but on a bit of a smaller scale as in the product we offer. But we really treat people as best we can to make sure that, like you say, you've had a great time, you've had a great party. You'll tell everyone about it, and then you'll also come back. And that's something that I focus on every day with all my teams, that make sure every child and every parent comes in any of our parks, they have a fantastic time.
How many adults go in and then just go?
Did you not go in?
I didn't go in. I didn't go, but my wife did. She was in, and there was about 3 of the other parents that also went in. And they came out sweaty. Like I could see, they were just.
And it's nice for the adults to go in because, you know, it's like being a bit of a big kid again, you know, and it's that sort of back in the day in memories, jumping on a bouncy castle. It's, you know, it's really special. And a lot of adults want to go in with the kids and play with the kids, but then also we get adults that will just come, we get a couple of people that might come on a date, for example, and, you know, they've come on a date to Airmaniacs. And they'll have fun and they'll have a laugh and they'll take it not too seriously, but, you know, that's what it's about. It's about ultimately enjoying the experience we provide.
And tell us a little bit about Street Maniacs, because I know one of the gyms that is on our app, FTG, you're now building something with them where you're taking fitness element and putting it in Street Maniacs. Tell us a little bit about that.
So obviously Street Maniacs is a trampoline, so, you know, there's a lot of fitness that can be linked with the trampolines. It's quite hard work. We've also got a Ninja Warrior salt course that is really hard work. So obviously I'm looking to link with someone that we trust and we know to be able to sort of provide maybe them fitness classes and have it a bit more structured and have done a bit more professionally instead of just letting everyone just go for it, you know. So that's something we're really excited about. It's a side of the business that I've always wanted to do at Street Maniacs, where we can get a lot more adult and older children in there being active and making, you know, the working hard, the burning the calories, but also that they've had a great time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a bit of a change of scenery with the gym. The other plus that we've got is that you can come along and do your fitness session as a parent, but then your kid's having a great time as well. The kids aren't in the waiting room on the iPad, you know. So that's something that I'm really excited about to be able to hopefully get that across the line, especially now it's the summer coming when, you know, people aren't maybe biking or walking outside or swimming as much with the heat. You can come indoor, do something a little bit different and still get fit at the same time.
Yeah, so that's what everyone's looking for, like variety in fitness.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think it's testament to the passion you guys have in the business, because if you opened up in COVID times, right?
Yeah.
So Street Maniacs actually opened in the January.
Like, you know, just about
in 2020,
welcoming the pandemic.
And then COVID hit in the February. So literally Street Maniacs was open 1 month. So when I took over the business out of COVID and they said to me, look, we've got this amazing park, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. No one knows about it because we're only open a month and then COVID hit and then the focus, you know, went. So I've had to work extremely hard with the team and the owners to really get the brand out there and let people know about it, because 9 times out of 10, people will come to Street Maniacs over the past year and go, I never knew about this.
Yeah.
You know, it's the first time I've known about it. Why haven't I known about it? So obviously I don't want to hear that. I'm like, why haven't you heard about it? You know, I'm doing this, I'm trying this, I've got these ideas, but the word is getting around now, which is fantastic, and we would love to be able to roll out Street Maniacs as well, and especially in Abu Dhabi, I think it would do amazing there, and in other parts of the UAE, because it's a fantastic brand and it's a little bit different than your stereotypical trampoline park. It's got that parkour, and it's very challenging for the kids as well. It's some of it isn't easy, which the kids want. They want to be challenged. They want to be able to go to that next little bit of thrill and next little bit of step being safe. But it's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
So when do we expect to see the classes roll out for the adults?
I'm thinking maybe we can do something in the summer holidays. Everyone's so busy now, finishing off school, people have exams. Do we launch it in the summer for the summer holidays, incorporate it in our camps as well? I've asked the guys to come down, and we're very successful at summer camps in all our camps, where the parents be able to drop their kid at 8:30, pick their child up at 2 p.m. We'll look after them, I'll feed them, water them, make sure they've had a great time, burn loads of energy, so when they go home they're tired. And I think it'd be really good to be able to put some sort of fitness slant on the camp as well. It'd be really exciting for us, yeah.
I think it's a great idea, because
I'm definitely going to try that.
Drop your kid off. Or
just make sure you have a waiver document ready. No, if you break your ankle, it's not our fault.
No one's going to tackle it, hopefully.
Right. But listen, I think it's a great concept. The fact that you opened up in 2020 and then a month later was COVID, but then you managed to then afterwards open one in, well, two now you have in Dubai, plus Street Maniacs, plus you did an Airmaniacs in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. So that's 4 locations in a space of
pretty quick
3 years.
And I've got
of which you had COVID in between.
Yeah. We've got 2 very passionate owners that want to be successful, and they work extremely hard to when we decide to put a park somewhere, he builds it very quick. He can build a park in 4 or 5 months. Even Yaz was built in 4 months, from a shell, and all systems go to get it done as quickly as possible and open. We actually opened about 2 months early in Yaz. They weren't ready for us, the mall, but we got it over the line. We're wanting to go hopefully one day outside of the UAE as well. So it's a great concept and great brand, and I'm really working hard to get it out there. Yeah.
I think it's a matter of time before we start getting franchise offers.
Yeah, I think ideally we want to keep keep it in house. I think that's the vision that we want to do, and instead of franchising it out, I think we like to be in control of the standards that we've set here in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi. But there's we get approached a lot. We want one in India. I'm in Australia. Can we? So there's always a little bit of discussion, but I think ultimately we're very focused just on the now at the minute to be able to get the next couple over the line and get them built quickly. Yeah.
Well, look, it's an incredible brand. Like I said, we've been there, and I encourage all of our viewers and listeners to take the kids out there and enjoy the time there. But it was great having you on the show. I think it was very good to hear about your football side of it and how fitness affects there, and then obviously going into Airmaniacs, and you've now been here how long?
3 years now.
3 years.
3 years.
He's still a youngster.
I've been in Dubai 6 years, and obviously I've worked for about just under 3 years at Air and Street Maniacs. But my story is a little bit different to everyone else's. I've come from that professional sports background, but that helps me my day-to-day management. I treat my team a bit like a football team. So I will, everyone's different. Everyone's got different talents. You might have someone that is a little bit harder work and a bit of that diva sort of star quality role. And then you've got your defenders that want to get stuck in. It's brilliant. I treat it day to day with all of my teams a bit like that, and try and pick some of the best points that I learned when the managers that I had when I was playing. How did they deal with that situation? Because it all interconnects, managing people and getting ultimately it's getting the best out of people and getting the best out of your team, which you need to do in football, but also you need to do in business and your day-to-day operations.
I mean, the sum of your company is your staff, right? That's your company. All depends on how good they are. But it was amazing having you on the show. We encourage everybody to take the kids out there. If you have
and the adults too.
Coming tomorrow.
There we go. We'll definitely put out a word for you and then drive some business.
Already on our store. Your coins have value.
They do now, which is great. I really appreciate your support.
Spend your white coins.
So I really appreciate your support. I think it's a fantastic incentive, if you've got children, to get your steps in, isn't it? And come and use them at our place, no problem.
Well, thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate your time. Well, thank you for joining us today and watching our show. It was brought to you by Air and Street Maniacs. They're on our app. Click, like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.